Grace and disgrace. Being open to passionately listen or not, the mental pressure of making sense, and the continuation of emotionality, all part of this cycle of the human design weather for March 7th to 12th, 2025. When we get to the long-term transits, I'm also going to bring attention to the gate of conflict and friction in its current expression of the peacemaker, but in detriment given what we're seeing in the world. Hello there. I'm Margot Fraser, your guide through the cosmic weather. As a certified human design professional and intuitive coach, I'm on a mission to help you know, live, and love the magic of your true nature. In this podcast, Human Design, Whether or Not, we explore the conditioning influences of the planetary motions, the transit field. You can't avoid the conditioning pressures. You'll likely notice their effects playing out around you, but rather than you reacting and being pulled off track, this awareness will empower you to navigate the cycles, staying true to your authentic nature and taking advantage of opportunities when they're correct for you. All right, let's delve into the weather for this cycle. This cycle begins March 7th at 1:04 a.m. Mountain Standard Time and goes to March 12th at 5:11 p.m. Mountain Daylight Time. UTC Universal Time Coordinates, it starts March 7th at 8:04 a.m. and is going until March 12th at 11:11 p.m. Remember to convert that to your own time zone so you know when it starts and ends for you. We always start with the Sun Earth activations because that's 70% of the conditioning field. The Sun has moved into gate 22, the trait of openness, of grace, or not. It can be disgrace as well. This is part of the individual circuitry. Individual traits always bring the potential for a pulse of knowing that could be mutative and empowering. It's in the emotional center, the solar plexus center, that tells us that it's a trait that has its ups and downs with the emotional wave. The individual wave, it has what we call a spike wave. When triggered, it can spike way up or way down into hope and joy, or down into pain or sorrow, erupting out into laughter or into tears is here. You could experience these outbursts of laughter or outbursts of tears yourself in this cycle. With that spike wave, there's a moodiness that comes with this frequency. It's part of the only social channel in the individual circuitry. So you might find that you're more open or closed to being social depending on your mood. And if you drop into a bad mood, well, it might be best to keep with yourself so that you're not splattering that mood over everyone else. It will pass. This is a trait of grace, allowing others to go first, being polite, waiting for that right time to release the mutation, or disgrace, being rude, interrupting, not truly listening. In its high form, this trait has the power to empower attentiveness, attentiveness in yourself to others, and attentiveness in others to yourself. This is grace, being open to listen and being attentive. Remember that the individual circuitry is here to bring through mutation, something new. How can you get the mutation out if nobody will listen? Right? This is the power of this trait, to empower that attentiveness. So it's important that if you have this trait yourself in your design, that you wait to hear others out and then speak. Its very foundation is in politeness. No, you go ahead. It's okay, you go ahead. This is the gate of the left ear that hears in a wave. What you take in will depend on where you are in the wave. But over time, you can build up a very nuanced understanding, a very rich picture from what you hear. At the same time, in learning situations, you'll likely need to hear things again and to hear from a voice that you enjoy the pitch and the quality and the tone from. What you take in at a different time will be different, again, depending on where you are in your wave. Its keynote says a quality of behavior best suited for handling mundane and trivial situations. If you're being polite and letting the other go first, you're going to hear a lot of trivial things. You're going to have to be polite in listening to do this before you can get your chance to express. And this is what grace allows. The potential opportunities with this, you may notice that you're more attuned to the acoustics of things, what's beautiful to you and what's not, through that pitch and tone. It's not so much about the actual words being said, it's the quality of the voice. This trait can bring passion and romance through that attentiveness. You may have the opportunity to express your passion, your emotional spirit. The cautions. If the polarity plays out and the detriment is often what we see when we look out in the world, it's going to be disgraceful. Forcing your voice over others, or others forcing their voice over top of you, speaking over you. You'll likely witness that. And in fact, we've had Saturn sitting in gate 22 in the long term transits. So you've probably seen that already. People talking over one another, interrupting, not listening. Every individual trait can carry melancholy. And here, the potential melancholy is that there's nothing worth listening to. It would come through in a pulse, just drop down into that melancholy. It's the biochemistry of the way the individual circuitry works. So you can't make yourself wrong about it. It's just biochemistry. Don't try and explain it away to anyone. And while, yes, this trait can support us in listening to the mundane and the trivial, what the trait is really listening for is the passion of the other. It wants to hear their emotional spirit. And when the expression does come out from the skate, it's usually with passion. It's expressing, again, your emotional spirit. If you do get triggered into the melancholy during this cycle, do your best to channel that into something creative that you enjoy. Listening to music that you're in the mood for can be helpful as well. This is a very acoustic gate, being that gate of the left ear. The Earth. The Earth has moved into gate 47, the trait of realizing, also called oppression. It's in the Ajna center, the second triangle from the top, and that's the seat of the mind. It's your mental awareness. And all the mind's processes are played out there, the analyzing, the conceptualizing, the rationalizing, the comparing, and so on. This is part of the collective abstract experiential circuitry that's about making sense of the past so that we can learn and gain the wisdom from it. Last cycle, we had its electromagnetic, gate 64, in the head center, the trait of confusion with its pressure to make sense. And here we have the actual mental process of trying to relieve that confusion. Gate 64 stores our memories as images, but when they come into the ajna, into the mind, they aren't in any order. So it's quite an oppressive and difficult process. It's like getting pieces from a puzzle a very difficult puzzle that are given to you, and you're trying to figure out how they all fit together. And some of those puzzle pieces might also be missing, and you don't know it yet. But when you finally do put them all together after going through that process of like, how do these things sequence? How do they fit together? You can get that aha, that realization. Its keynote says a restrictive and adverse state as a result of internal weakness or external strength or both. Internal weakness, you haven't made sense of it yet. External strength, the pressure coming from the outside to figure it out. Restrictive and adverse state, your mind's going to be working on making sense of it. So, a very busy mind could be at work through this cycle. At the macro level, it's about making sense of the experience of being human, making sense of life itself. So, there's a lot of value in this process, even though it is oppressive. The potential opportunities, well, there's the potential for awareness to recognize what makes sense or not in things going on in your life during this cycle. You could have that aha, right? Oh, I get it. It's like when someone tells you a joke and you're kind of going, I don't get it. And then half an hour later, it's like, oh, I get it now, right? You've got to put it together. Ultimately, this process can help you to see what's wrong so you can figure out what's right. The caution here, well, often instead of trying to make sense of something for the wisdom and the lessons for ourselves, we're trying to figure out who or what to blame. So there could also be anxiety here that you'll never get the realization. You're never going to get the point. It's never going to make sense. And guess what? There are some things in life that will never make sense. And we have to learn to just let those ones go and stop wasting mental energy on them. Also, the abstract circuitry is related to the emotional system, so it takes time. One of the things that may happen in this cycle is that your mind starts replaying past emotional events over and over again and trying to force the making sense process. It has its own time, but it could have you also jumping to conclusions about what happened when you don't have the full picture yet. And this is only part of the mental abstract process. This energy is moving from gate 47 across to gate 11. So the realization still has to become an idea. That's what gate 11 is, the gate of ideas, ideas that will stimulate others. So there is still a kind of restrictive nature that can continue to play out here. Remember that there are no facts associated with the abstract process. It's beliefs that eventually come from this process. We tend to really grab on to our beliefs tightly, but at its root, emotional nature, it's transitory. Our beliefs can change over time. When we look at these two gates together, you may find yourself trying to make sense of whatever you're gracefully listening to, or why, trying to make sense of why someone's not listening to you. Perhaps gracefully listening to others could bring in a pulse of knowing that supports your making sense process, getting that aha. The attentive conversations you have with others might be about who to blame for whatever situations that are coming up for you or whatever situations you're discussing. Rudeness and impoliteness may degrade further into a blame game. These are all ways that this combination could potentially play out. All right, let's move into looking at the channels that are being created in this cycle. When the transit field creates a channel, everyone that doesn't have it already in their chart is receiving the activation of the related traits and qualities. So it does have a big impact in that way. We have our one long-term channel that came in February 11th. It's with us till April 7th. So still exposed to this. If you've been listening in, yes, this is going to be a repeat, but I want to go through it just to remind you. We have been with this for, a few weeks now. So we have Jupiter sitting in gate 35, the trait of progress and change in the throat center. And it's connecting with its electromagnetic, the trait of crisis, gate 36, that's being activated by the north node of the moon. This creates the channel of transitoriness, the design of a jack of all trades. The rule of thumb in the experiential circuitry is to never repeat an experience, but to move from one to another. So that's why there's that transitoriness there. We have the emotional center connecting to the throat center. And the emotional center is both an awareness center or emotional intelligence or emotional awareness, and the motor that generates that ups and downs of the emotional wave. So emotional center going right up to the throat, there could be some emotional volatility here. The pressure is to enter into a new experience. And the crisis of gate 36 is feeling inadequate as a novice. You don't have the experience yet. The potential opportunity, if it's correct for you, according to your own strategy and authority, is to enter into that new experience. Or if you're in one, to move to the next phase of it or bring it to completion, getting to that gate 35, that trait of progress and change, where you can articulate the change and how you feel and what you've learned from that experience. There can be the voice of, I'm bored here. When you get to the end of an experience, remember, this is a trait that's looking for something new, doesn't want to repeat. So until that something new comes in, there can be this real sense of, I'm bored. It can also be the voice of, I feel. And most often, I feel like a change. So in the collective, lots of people under this pressure need a change. We need a change here. We need something different. For those that enter into the experience out of the pressure and not out of the strategy and authority, it can bring anger and disappointment at unmet expectations or feeling stuck and stagnant creatively. Okay, we've got 3 channels being created by the transit of the moon, which means they're just tasters, they're just little samplers, as the moon only stays in a gate or a trait for about 10 or 11 hours, give or take. But let's quickly go through these. This first channel actually came in at the end of last cycle. So we're just going to have it for a very short period of time. It goes out on March 7th at 6:23 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. UTC, it's going to go out March 7th at 10:29 a.m. We have the channel of openness, a design of a social being, with the moon moving into gate 12 at the end of last cycle, the trait of caution or incaution in the throat, connecting with its electromagnetic, both Saturn's position and the sun's position, gate 22, that trait of grace or disgrace in the emotional solar plexus center. So it's part of the individual circuitry, mutation, knowing, empowerment. This channel brings the pressure to be socially open or socially closed, depending on mood. It can be moody, romantic, passionate, or not, the opposite of all those things. It's the only social channel in the individual circuitry, and it brings a chameleon quality to the kind of uniqueness, sometimes we say freakiness or weirdness of the individual circuitry that allows it to be accepted more easily by the tribe, by the collective. So that is going to allow it to bring its mutation through, to bring something new through, a spark that could then be taken up and turned into a fire, catch on in the tribe or in the collective. It can bring a real grace and politeness to interactions. and a built-in cautiousness in expression from knowing that the tribe and the collective, they are not always ready to hear, to accept that mutation, that newness. Or it can bring rudeness, aggressiveness, disgrace to interactions, and incautiousness in expression, just blurting out its mood, splattering that all over everyone else. It's a channel of making music together, literally or romantically. It can be fickle. It can turn on a dime. Individual circuitry operates in a pulse. It's very acoustic and attuned to pitch and quality of voice and tone. The opportunity it brings is the possibility to bring your unique expression to social interactions that shifts them to be open in a graceful way to others is another potential here. The caution is that if you pulse down in your mood, you may just want to withdraw socially. That's okay. And be more socially closed rather than once again splattering that bad mood over others in a social situation. There can be emotional volatility here. We've got the emotional center directly connecting to the throat. March 8th at 10:55 p.m. Mountain Standard Time until March 9th at 10:15 Mountain Daylight Time. UTC, that's March 9th at 5:55 a.m. until 4:15 p.m. We have the moon moving into gate 62, the trait of details in the throat center, connecting with its electromagnetic gate 17 in the Ajna center, Mercury's position. This creates a channel called the channel of acceptance, a design of an organizational being. This is a channel where the theories, the opinions of that logical gate 17 go through a process of getting all the details in place to substantiate that theory with the facts and being able to then articulate that out. Potential opportunities here? Well, to get into the details and organize your facts for something that maybe you need to present or put together for any theories that you have. To be able to organize people and things is an opportunity that comes with this as well. The cautions. Blurting out theories and opinions without being invited to, just out of the pressure, and if you haven't gone through that full process that puts all the backing facts together with it, you may be called out on it, right? Show me the proof. Give me the facts there. Right? Could be a little humiliated in that case. And if you just blurt out without being invited, if you're not following your strategy and your authority, it's most likely going to be to the wrong people at the wrong time. And it's not going to be heard in the way that you intended, or maybe not even heard at all, which is, not very nice to go through that. Also, if you spew on with all the details and facts when it hasn't been invited, those people who weren't the ones that should have heard it anyways may just get really bored and turned off by what you're talking about, just start tuning you out. All right, last one. March 12th at 2:10 a.m. until 1:05 p.m. Mountain Daylight Time. UTC, that's March 12th at 8:10 a.m. till 7:05 p.m. We have the channel of mating, a design of reproduction, with the moon moving into gate 59, the trait of sexuality in the sacral center, connecting with its electromagnetic gate 6, the trait of conflict and friction in the emotional solar plexus center. That's being activated by the south node of the moon. This is part of the tribal circuitry that has a theme of mutual support, and it brings a pressure to reproduce. Literally, it's a channel of mating, or metaphorically, it can be very fertile creatively. It creates a frequency that's very penetrating and can open others to intimacy or can close them off. So there could be some very intimate conversations that happen during this period of time. You might find that you're more open or more closed to intimacy. The polarities are both there. The opportunities here are for creative fertility, for intimacy. The caution is that, well, connection to the emotional center inherently means that it takes time. It takes time to establish intimacy with another, whether that's at the level of a mate, a friend, or a business partner. But there can be a tendency to rush in out of the pressure of this channel. In any relationship, there's going to be conflict and friction, that gate 6. As you work through it, it can bring growth and evolve a relationship, or it can bring the kind of friction that devolves the relationship and breaks it apart. Both things are possible. All right, that brings us to our long-term transits. The long-term transits are created by the outer planets and the nodes of the moon. They're with us for a longer period of time. Some cases it can be years. So your not self mind may start to grab onto them as, ooh, that is part of me, even when it's really not something that you have in your own design. And it can be tough on that not self mind when it finally moves on to another gate. What? That's not me. It's gone. Yeah. So we just want to be aware. Again, there's the opportunities to learn from these things without grabbing onto them as us if it's not part of our design. Well, we continue to have the emotionality that we've already talked about, that pressure to enter into a new experience that may not be correct for you if you're not following your strategy and authority. That channel of transitoriness. That gate 35 in the throat center is moved into line 2, which can bring a sense of being blocked creatively and taking hasty action out of that rather than understanding it's emotional. Creativity moves up and down in the wave. Patience. Patience is always required with the emotional center. There can be a desire to have experiences with others that are mutually supportive, with the tribal activation in the emotional center. And gate 22, also in the emotional center, has moved into line 6, where it can have the potential to bring leadership to social situations in its mutation. Or it could be deeply depressed that it can't see what the mutation will bring. It always wants to look to the next thing, look beyond. This is Saturn. And a lack of discipline in being polite and graceful in interactions could bring undesired consequences. And as we discussed, this is going to be amplified because we've got our sun's position also in gate 22. There could be a sense with these long-term transits of feeling like you want to change in a relationship. And that could create conflict and friction with gate 6 that requires peacemaking efforts or inability to bring harmony. Just a caution that you make any decisions from your own strategy and authority rather than the pressures of this transit field. Okay, I said at the beginning that I was going to give a little more insight into this gate 6, this gate of conflict and friction. It's the position of the south node of the moon, and it's sitting in line 6 in detriment. So every line has its polarities, an exaltation and a detriment. And it doesn't actually mean that one or the other is right or wrong, but there will be a movement between these. We tend to see the exaltations as more positive, but the detriments, if it's at a personal level, if you're following your strategy and authority and it's the detriment that comes through you, that's what's supposed to come through you. It doesn't mean because this is in detriment that the exaltation can't be expressed, but there's going to be very strong pressure to express the detriment. especially when we look at it at a collective level. This is a gate that generally we think of it's part of the channel of mating. It's very much about one-on-one relationships. But when we back up and we look at it at this is tribal. So tribe to tribe, country to country, for example. So it's just something that's interesting me that I like to observe how the transit field is impacting the world. How is it playing out? Are we really seeing it? So I'll tell you what the line's about, and then you can judge from there. So these nodes came in on January 30th. So we've got the 6th gate of conflict and friction, and 36, which is that experiential crisis. And they're going to be with us until January 13th. It'll move through all 6 lines, which are the different expressions of that particular gate. And the nodes move in reverse order. The planets go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, unless they're in retrograde and they start backing up. The nodes go 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Sometimes there's a movement forward. But what's fascinating is that line 6 is being activated for the majority of that time period that these nodes are in play. So it's there from January 30th until April 2nd. And then we'll see the movement into line 5, but there's going to be a change in direction. So after 4 days already on April 6th, going to move back into line 6. And then on April 13th, it'll move back to line 5 and start its regular path 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 until June 13th. So I'm going to read the description for line 6, which is called the peacemaker. So first of all, it has a developmental theme, which means you don't get born as the peacemaker. You develop and learn about this trait all your life. If you've got this in your design, gate 6, line 6, yeah, something that you're going to learn about. And the developmental or the learning theme is the discipline and integrity of a superior force to unilaterally cease conflict, to permit surrender and survival of its foe. The exaltation, just to give you that side of the polarity. What that says is the highest form of reason is that life is sacred. The emotional power to end conflict tempered by feelings and sensitivity to others. So there's a kind of compassion in the way the peacemaking is done. There's a recognition that life is sacred, and that's reason enough for peace. But we're in the detriment. So what the detriment says is the peacemaker whose actions are just, but whose terms are unacceptable. The emotional power to end conflict, but only after one's conditions have been satisfied. So here we have conditions, and conditions that are difficult for others to swallow. Remember that this is in the emotional center. So just watch what's been playing out in the world since January 30th and really take in how strong the programming of the conditioning field is, which is why I harp on following your own strategy and authority. We're not here to be puppets of the transit field. All right. So just to touch on the long-term transits that are not in the emotional center, we've got gate 23, Uranus position, the trait of assimilation in the throat center, bringing a potential unique and unusual expression that could shift perspectives. However, it's in line 6 as well, which means there could be a reluctance to bring through that expression unless you could really see that it's going to have the impact that you want. Line 6 really wants to make sure that it's going to be successful. Neptune sitting in gate 25 in the G center, the diamond in the center of the chart, activating the individual trait of innocence, the spirit of the self, and universal love, or the polarity. It's moved into line 2, which is called the existentialist. So it's about being here now. Now, Neptune's watery nature could make it difficult to that on one hand, but could also show us the illusion of focusing on the past and the future. Pluto, sitting in gate 41, the trait of contraction and decrease in the root center, part of the abstract experiential circuitry. It's the gate of daydreaming and fantasizing about the next experience that you'd like to have. It's also made a move into a new line. It's in line 2 now, called Caution. And it says humanism tempered by pragmatism. So you could fantasize here about wanting to help others. This is collective, but not actually take any action. Or you could want others to recognize your feelings and your dreams for humanity in the expectation that you'll get something out of it. Remember that for any of these traits you don't have in your own design, it's just the pressure of the transit field. You can observe it all playing out around you. You can learn from it, but whether there's something for you to actually do or take action on is according to your own strategy and authority. That brings us to the end of the cosmic weather for this cycle. If you want to run your own chart, you can go to jovianarchive.com. And if you're new to human design and you want to understand the basics of the body graph at a high level, what's the red and the black about, the different geometric shapes, a little bit of background on human design, you can grab my free Human Design Basics mini course. It's at margotgfraser.com/human hyphen design. You'll also find opportunities there for deeper readings if you want to understand your design in a deeper way. If you enjoyed this podcast, I would be very grateful if you could give this episode a like and maybe subscribe to the podcast. All right. Well, once again, keep those surfboards out to ride the emotional waves. If it's correct for you, you can use these frequencies to learn more about attentive listening and being graceful in that, attuning to voices and songs that you really love to listen to. If you're in a relationship, it could prompt romance. There could be some ahas and making sense of experiences. There could also be anxiety with that ajna gate of 47 in play. The anxiety of not being able to make sense. Just be patient. Making sense takes time. Observe the mental busyness that might be there, but don't make any decisions from it. Disgrace and impoliteness may show up in a bigger way. So just keep an eye out for those. All right. Well, have a great cycle. Be kind to one another, and may you know, love, and live the magic of your true nature. Until next time, bye for now.